Hello, NBA fans. This is Wilson. So currently it's 8:52 a.m. on Monday morning in Los Angeles. The NBA Finals begin Thursday at I believe it's 5:30 p.m. on ABC. It'll be the Thunder and the Pacers. Since the last episode I recorded on May 25th, we saw the Thunder close out the Timberwolves in 5, and then on Saturday we saw the Pacers close out the Knicks in 6 in Indiana, which would also happen to be the final game of the NBA on TNT. So that was like an emotional thing. I might say a little bit more about it at the later on in this episode, but you know I just wanted to I wanted to get my NBA Finals preview in and say some stuff about the Knicks and where they go from here, and like I said, maybe some stuff about the TNT. The TNT NBA and TNT finale, and where the show goes inside the NBA. They're not going anywhere, right? But the NBA on TNT itself is it's no more now. Obviously, everybody knew this was coming, but still though. But I'll start with I guess I'll start with the finals. Actually, no, I'll start with the Knicks, and where they go from here. Obviously, they lost in, like I said, they lost in Game 6. It's the same Pacers team that they lost to last year, and that was without Julius Randle. So, and that went in 7. So this year they only got to Game 6, and that was with Karl Anthony Towns. So I think it kind of says something because, it's like, the fact that the fact that they would lose in 7 last year, right, with Brunson basically playing hero ball, and then come back the next year against the same Pacers team and lose again, but lose it in one fewer game with an all-star, all-NBA big man in Towns. It says something, I think, about the way Jalen Brunson plays, the way that the Knicks play offense. And not just with Towns, with Mikal Bridges also, who they didn't have last year. So with more talent, they lost to the same team in one fewer game. And I think that like I said, Brunson, basically what it says is that Brunson plays hero ball no matter how much talent that he has around him. And now I'm a fan of hero ball, right? Like, I think hero ball, I'd rather have somebody who plays hero ball than somebody who just worries about his field goal percentage and makes sure that every shot that he takes is a great shot, right? But I think that it's a size thing, man. And I said this over and over, and I in the title of my last of the last video I put up, because I talked about it. It's impossible to talk about when you're talking about the Knicks with Brunson. But Becky Hammond, she said it that she a few years ago people got upset that she thought Jalen Brunson was too small to be the best player on a championship team. And basically, I mean, it's just impossible to watch that series that you just watched and not come to that conclusion. A little 6'2" guy like that who's really, I mean, Brunson's a guy who gets a lot out of a little, right? He's really an overachiever. This is not an Isaiah Thomas or an Allen Iverson or a Chris Paul, one of these really like just naturally gifted basketball players that can go out and dominate the game. This is someone who's he's small. He's not that athletic, but he's worked on his craft so much that he's turned himself into a great player, right? Even somebody like the other Isaiah Thomas, the 5'9" Isaiah Thomas. Um, he's really somebody, and he's a lefty too. He's somebody that Isaiah Thomas even is more talented than someone like a Jalen Brunson, right? But Jalen Brunson is someone who just he works really hard and he turned himself into a great player. But and what he's done is great. Like he got the Knicks to the conference finals. He's made the Knicks relevant again for the first time since that like one Carmelo year where they made the second round. What he's done is great, and you can tell the city they really love this team. But I mean, like I said, but this is not. I grew up watching Allen Iverson, who carried that Philly team, to the finals. And all he had was a defensive center in Mutombo, and then just basically just a bunch of role players, and he got them to the finals. And Brunson with a Cat and Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart, he couldn't quite get them there. So I think it just speaks to it is what it is. He's a very, very good player. He's an excellent player. He's a great player. But when it came down to it, one team's best player is 6'5", and he moves the ball and plays the point guard position the way it's supposed to be played. And the other guy's best player is 6'2", and he hogs the ball. And the guy who's 6'5", who moves the ball, his team won. And people have been saying, well, the Pacers have the better team. But like I said, man, the Pacers really don't have better players than the Knicks. They just play a better brand of basketball. And now I think if you look at it, and it's already questions about, well, what do the Knicks do now? Do they bring the same core back, or do they try to maybe, make a move for Giannis? And my take on that has been, and this, was talking about from the second that Giannis got eliminated from the playoffs this year, the Bucks did. But, is that something that could be a possibility? Giannis to New York, because Giannis is reportedly interested in playing for, a big market. And my thing is, if Giannis and if Giannis and if Giannis and Dame didn't work, then why would Giannis and Brunson work? Because somebody's going to have to, and I think really what Milwaukee should have done is, Dame tried to come in and fit himself around Giannis. I think Dame should have come in. Like Dame would basically like pick his spots. Like he'd wait until Giannis was off the court to take over. When I think what it really should have been is that Dame should have come in and just been Dame, and then let Giannis be Giannis. I really don't think it would have been that much of a conflict if they had done it that way. But that's not what they did. And so I mean, so that was kind of my thinking though. But as I think about it now, and I guess I'm thinking my way through this. If the Knicks got Giannis, right, and Brunson, I don't know, bro. It's a conflict because obviously Brunson can't be the best player on the championship team, but can Giannis be the best player on the championship team? I mean, we know he already has been, but can he in 2025 still be the best player on the championship team? I kind of feel like he's kind of the problem himself. That he won that title in 2021, and nobody will ever be able to take it away from him. But his game almost feels a little bit, as dominant as he is. If you're talking about trying to win championships, his game almost feels a little bit outdated um, in 2025. And if you look at the conference finals this year, it was Edwards and Shea and Halliburton and Brunson. So you got four guards, right? The best players on the team. Last year it was Halliburton and Tatum and Brown, and then in the West it was Luka and Edwards, right? So 4 straight years where you have guards or wings dominating, the playoffs. And I just wonder if Giannis, who is someone who gets most of his points in the paint, like it's great. He puts up numbers in the regular season. As long as he's healthy, his team is always going to be, pretty good. But I just don't know if Giannis in 2025 um, is as impactful as he was a few years ago. As the game moves more and more to 3-point shooting, and more to guards and wings dominating the game. And it's been like that for a while, but like Giannis kind of really just doesn't have the same type of impact that he used to have. And I think that when they broke up that team in Milwaukee, that was that didn't work. And I don't know. I just don't know how it. I don't know. It's like a catch-22. Like if Giannis is the if Giannis goes to New York, right, and I'm guessing Cat would be involved. Cat would have to go to Milwaukee. It's Brunson and Giannis, right? Now if they do it the way that they did it in Milwaukee, was Giannis and Dame, and Giannis takes Brunson takes the back seat and picks his spots, right? Well, okay, that just didn't work when it already didn't work when it was Giannis and Dame. And then if Giannis goes to Milwaukee and they go, okay, well, Giannis, Jalen's not going to change his game. Jalen's going to do what he does, and then you're so great, you'll still be able to get your numbers and do what you do. Well, that's still kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, can you win a championship with Jalen Brunson playing the way that Jalen Brunson plays? It's kind of like he wouldn't be the best player on the team, but as as someone who has the ball as much as he does, and we just saw that didn't work. So I think it might be in the best interest of the Knicks to I don't know, make some more minor changes around this core that they have. And remember that next year, no Tatum, Milwaukee, Giannis will probably be traded, but even if he isn't, they're not going to be in the mix. So it's basically, the East is going to be wide open once again, right? And of course, the funny thing about it all is that the person that they really should be looking at trading if you were the Knicks would be Brunson, because he's too small. He needs somebody bigger if he want a chance to win the championship. But I think the Knicks are. You gotta remember the Knicks haven't won since '73, and you watch this playoff run, and you have the guys from the '90s come, the games. Larry Johnson and John Starks and Ewing and all these guys who, they had teams that made the finals a couple times, and then a bunch of conference finals, stuff like that. So they were contenders, but they never actually, won. They didn't win a championship. And I think the Knicks are okay with a team of hard hat guys who play hard. People talk about Thibodeau, with the Knicks who won from Thibodeau. Well, Thibodeau was a New York Knicks type of coach. Like, the lineage is there. Riley was the man, and Van Gundy was on Riley's staff. And then Van Gundy became the man, and Thibodeau was on Van Gundy's staff. So the Knicks are the type of city, or they have the type of fan base where if you play hard and you're a contender, that's enough for them, because they're not used to winning championships. you know. So if the Knicks keep this core together and they keep making the conference finals, maybe they make a finals or something like that. It'll be bittersweet if they never win a championship. But I mean, for the Knicks, I mean, like I said, like look how much they love, Spreewell and Grandmama and Allen Houston and Ewing and Starks and Oakley and all those guys from the '90s. They still love those guys, and they never won a championship. So this is a Knicks. This is exactly the type of team that you would expect the Knicks to have, which is a really good team that's not quite good enough to win a championship, but they excite the fan base, and because of the way that they play, because they play so hard, that it the fan base has great admiration and love for them. So yeah, I think it would be better for the Knicks if they were to since they're not going to trade Jalen Brunson, it would be better for them to make maybe some minor tweaks around the margins, and then just run it back with this same team and see what happens. Now, I want to say something briefly about because I mentioned Giannis, right? And I was listening yesterday to The Odd Couple. That's Rob Parker now, and it's Rob Parker, and now it's Kelvin Watson. It used to be Chris Broussard. But they were saying, well, because obviously Giannis has also been linked to the Spurs. Spurs obviously have the number 2 pick and all these assets. So you already have you have Wemby, you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Stephon Castle, who just won the Rookie of the Year, and you have Devin Vassell, you have Keldon Johnson, you have Jeremy Sohan. You got a lot of nice pieces there, and now they have the number 2 pick in the draft, right? And you look at it, and I look at it, I feel like they have a gluttony of. You don't need Fox. Of course, the number 2 pick in the draft, or I should say the number 2 ranked prospect in the draft is, by consensus, is Dylan Harper, Ron Harper's son, the kid out of Rutgers, right? It goes Flag, and then Harper, and then Bailey, and I think it's pretty much set in stone, right? And so, kind of like if it's a situation where, let's say the Spurs say, well, we already have enough guards, right? But we could use an Ace Bailey, right? Who's a really talented wing. But they probably wouldn't take Ace Bailey second. They would probably trade the pick down. They probably, or they would swap picks with, or they would take Harper and trade him for who has the 3rd pick? It's Philly, right? But Philly doesn't need Harper either. But however it worked, it's like when in '94, right? When the was it '94? Was it 93? When the Magic had the number 1 pick and they took Chris Webber and then traded him to Golden State, who had the 2nd pick, for Penny Hardaway, right? Now, why didn't the Magic just take Penny Hardaway with the 1st overall pick? Right? Because Chris Webber was obviously the that's a conversation all on its own. It's like, why do teams do that? It's like if one guy is like the consensus number 1 prospect, but he's like it'd be a better fit to take somebody else instead of just taking the other guy with the 1st overall pick. They'll take the other guy and then trade with the other team. Instead of just taking Penny over, number one overall, they said no, we'll take Weber, and then just trade him to to Golden State. It's silly when you think about it, but that's how they do it. And so I think that, like I said, man, you can say whatever you want. I saw the write up about it about what do you call it? The Spurs. It seems like the Spurs are just going to take the best player available in Harper, who Harper profiles as like a James Harden type, 6'6", left-handed, big guard who can do a lot of different things, right? But like I said, you don't need Fox and Castle and Dylan Harper. That's a logjam at that guard position. So now, and I also think that Ace Bailey, though, I think Ace Bailey would not. I don't think Dylan Harper would. Those two guys went to Rutgers. Who the hell goes to Rutgers to play basketball? They basically went to Rutgers because they knew if they went to Rutgers, they could just do whatever they wanted to do, right? And the Rutgers went like, I don't even know what their record was. I don't even think they finished 500. If they did, they was maybe 500 or barely over 500. They were not good, right? So they basically just went there because, well, we had to do something for a year before we went to the league. Let's go to Rutgers and do whatever we want to do, right? And so now that's not the type of people that the Spurs have. The Spurs have winning players with winning mentality and team mentality, right? So that going back to Giannis, is that a situation where the Spurs, package that pick and maybe a couple of those other assets I said and some other picks and make the move for Giannis? I don't know. Or do you just try to, maybe, deal the pick in some other way for some other pieces and just try to win more, a little bit more organically than adding such a huge piece like a Giannis, Like I said, bro, Giannis is such a huge piece that he just changes the very makeup of your team. And like I said, but I don't know if Giannis I don't think that his game. When I say his game is not aging well, I don't mean that in the sense of how Galvez used to talk about Blake Griffin, right? Like I used to say, well, Blake Griffin, because his game is so much based on athleticism, that once he hits, 30, his game is not gonna. I don't mean it like that. I meant in terms of the it's the way that the game is just constantly moving more and more towards 3-point shooting and guards and wings, dominating somebody like Giannis who doesn't shoot threes and gets all his stuff in the paint. It's like he's sort of becoming outdated in that sense. Not that he still is. I think Giannis Giannis is like a LeBron or a Westbrook, that type of. And Blake Griffin was too, is a freak of nature athlete, but the injuries took a toll on Blake Griffin. And by the time he was 30, he wasn't the same, guy anymore. But Giannis seems like one of those guys, like a LeBron or a Westbrook. I always remember when the guy, Costa Legend, said about Steve Smith, number 89, Smitty will never be washed, right? Steve Smith was just one of those athletes who, he's always going to be able to do what he does. And I think that Giannis is one of those guys too, probably. One of those super freak athletes like that, who's always going to be able to, be one of the best athletes on the court. But I think as far as, the way that the direction of the game continues to move, that maybe Giannis is not the asset that he would have been 5 years ago, right? Now, okay, so as far as the finals go, I think it'll go one of three ways. I think it would be. I think it'll go one of three ways, which is either the first scenario is Thunder in 4, which is like the template would be um, Lakers Nets from 2002. So basically, you have a situation where uh, you got a good Nets team. I'm sorry, a good Nets team, but they run. That was back when the West was like way better than the East, right? And so whatever you did in the East really did not have any bearing on what would happen if you made the finals because it's like a whole new ball game when you're playing against that the best team in the West. And so I think that I think that I think it'd go that way, or I think more than likely than that would be like the 2003 finals where you had um, a Nets team that had they were better in 2003. You know, they had their way going through the East. They swept the Pistons in the conference finals, and then they actually took a couple games from the Spurs. That was Tim Duncan's second in a regular season MVP year. He went back-to-back MVPs. And I think the series was 2-2 after 4 games, and the Spurs won in 6. So you're talking about a competitive series, but probably one that the Nets are really never really going to win because Duncan at that time, I mean, you're talking about maybe probably the best player in the world at that point for that year. Um, and so it's kind of similar. You got now of course the difference is that the Spurs had already won in '99, so Duncan was already a champion. But still, you got the MVP of the league, and then you got the Spurs team that is this is this by now is Parker Ginobili. It's a different team than it was in '99. David Robinson is in his last year, and so the Spurs they end up winning 2003, 2005, and 2007, right? So if you're looking at OKC, they have the MVP. They have Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, and it's a I mean really better. They're better than the 2003 Spurs were. Um, and I think the Pacers are better than the Pacers are better than the 2002 Nets. The Pacers are more like the 2003 Nets. Like I said, the Pacers just went through the East at 12-4, right? So this is a really good Pacers team. And I think they could possibly take a couple games from this OKC team. But the reason I bring up the disparity between the East and the West back then is because it's possible that this Pacers team this Thunder team will just be like a whole level up from the. I saw the crazy stat I've seen this year. The Thunder went 29-1 against the East this year. So it's possible that the Pacers get to the finals and go, what the heck? This is completely different than what we've just been seeing. And the thing that makes the Thunder so good, of course, is their defense. Their defense is statistically all time good. They're not as striking to watch as like I always remember the 2004 Pistons and the 2008 Celtics. Because just to watch, I didn't have to look at the numbers. You just watch them and you see how suffocating their defense was, right? And that was ironically Tim Thibodeau. He was the defensive mastermind on that team, even though Doc was the head coach, right? But and I think that I was like, I mean, they won 68 games. But, and then I saw some guys on Twitter talking about, like all the different guys that they can throw at Halliburton. And Halliburton already, offensively, as much as I like him as a scorer, he's inconsistent, right? So they got Lou Dort, who was first team all defense, and he got votes for defensive player of the year. They have Alex Caruso, of course, the great, who won a championship with the Lakers in 2020. They have Cason Wallace. They got a bunch of different dudes that they can throw at him, and make it hard for this Pacers defense to for their offense to function in a 7-game series. So those are the two most likely scenarios, or we maybe split it down the middle. You say Thunder and 5, right? But now if you go in the other direction, then I think that this is less likely, but I say Pacers in 6 would be the other possibility. But simply if the Thunder are actually not quite ready to take that mantle, which we've seen before. And the first thing that comes to mind is of course, Heat and Mavs 2011, where you have this team that everybody thinks is ready to do it, and as it turns out, they weren't quite ready, man. Uh, it happens sometimes. Lakers 2008 against the Celtics. The Lakers were the favorites in that series going into the series, and they ran into this great Celtics team, and they had to come back and win it the next 2 years, right? So it just depends, are the you know is this Thunder team, are they the 2015 Warriors, or are they, like I said, the 2008 Lakers or the 2011 Heat, right? Are they ready or are they not ready, right? Um, so that would be the only way though that I can see the Thunder losing the series. And also, like I said, man, the other thing, like I said last week or last episode, um, the way that uh, the Thunder play, this is it's fine. It's like, will this be the year that somebody playing that style of play that Kobe said you can't win a championship with, right? Which is uh, the James Harden style, one man up top, one versus, you know, 1-5 or however you want to call it, right? Can you win a championship like that? Now it's not like it was when James was doing it, because this OKC team is more talented than those Houston teams that James played on, right? And you got other guys who do stuff, but just the style of play itself, right? Can you win a championship playing like that? The way that Minnesota's trying to win with Ant, the way that the Mavs and now the Lakers are trying to win with Luka, the way the Knicks just failed to win with Brunson. Um, can it be done? And if the Thunder do it, it'll be the first time that it's actually happened. And that's the way that these teams try to win now. It's like every team wants to have a big guard who dominates the ball, has the ball 90% of the time when he's on the court, and tries to win a championship like that. But it hasn't happened yet, and we have to see if it'll happen. But if not, the Pacers and the way that they play, with Halliburton playing a pure point guard, that will be I think that'll be another big reason why if the Pacers are able to win it. And so just right here at the end, the NBA on TNT, it concluded with Game 6 of with the conclusion of the Eastern Conference Finals. And of course, I mean, see, the thing about it is that, right, inside the NBA is not going anywhere. I mean, it's going, it's just changing networks, right? But those guys will be right back next year after the same old tricks in some capacity. I don't know exactly. I don't think it's going to be a post-game show like it has been. But they'll be on our televisions together doing what they do. And I think the same crew will be producing the show, I think, right? So as a TNT. So the show should be similar, right? It should be the same type of vibes. But what's going to be lost is the actual, the going back when I was a kid. It was when I was younger anyway. I remember when it was when they had it was. I remember when it was TNT. When it was Mike Fratello, it was Marv Albert, Mike Fratello, and Jeff Van Gundy. I think that's how Van Gundy started in TV, and they were so good. And I think then Van Gundy went back to coaching, or Maybe Marv went back to coaching. Then Steve Kerr became a commentator. He took one of those guys' spot. It's hard to remember now. But I also remember when it was Kevin Harlan, John Thompson, and Danny Ainge. I always liked that crew that they had. So that's what's being lost here is that aspect of it. No more double headers. It used to be, I remember it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then it was Tuesday and Thursday. Uh, that's no more. you know, and probably never will be again. Like NBC, that came back around to NBC, but NBC is a huge network. TNT was never a huge network like that. It's a cable channel. So for the last, that game on Saturday was the last time ever. It's like the NBA is ever going to circle back around probably to the NBA on TNT. It's never going to happen again. And so it's been like, I don't know, it's been like 40 years or however long it's been, you know. And it's just the end of an era. But like I said, inside the NBA, it's not going anywhere. So at least there's that. Now LeBron had Luke on his podcast, but it seemed that it was pre-recorded. It was recorded months ago, like after they beat OKC that time. So, which was like, was that March or April, right? So, I don't really have anything to say about it. We'll see if in part two, if it's like more recent, like since the season ended, maybe I'll have something to say about it. And then also there was a report that the Lakers are dead set on having Bronny in the rotation next year. I think the report came from Lakers Nation. But I don't really have too much to say about that because that remains to be seen. And I do think Bronny would still have to get better. If the Bronny that we saw last year, I don't think he's ready to be a rotation player. Even though obviously he's getting better and he's shown that it might actually belong in the league, but I wouldn't say that he's ready to be in the rotation. But if he's continue to improve and I think he will be playing the summer league again this year, we'll see. Then maybe so. You never know, right? He did get a lot better. I think I forgot I don't know who the quote was. Right? I think it was just a Western Conference executive that they quoted as a source. They said that he was a lot better in April than he was in October, right? So if he's a lot better in October, this October coming up, than he was in April, I mean, maybe he will be able to be a viable rotation piece. But yeah, man, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna say, shoot, the Knicks are out. So do I go back to go Lakers or do I go? What do I say? Yeah, I'll just say, shoot, who do I want to win the final? I don't care who wins the finals, honestly. So I'll just say, not even good night, goodbye, and take care.